Father Christmas, Saint Nick, Santa Claus, flying around the world on his sleigh. How can his body physically deal with the pressure? How he avoids altitude sickness? So what problems, what altitude, and how can Father Christmas get round it? So firstly, what altitude? It's a continuous thing that as you get higher there is slowly less and less pressure and less oxygen available. But as far as your body is concerned, you can roughly divide it up into three areas. They're called the physiological efficient zone, which you can roughly function in, the physiological deficient zone, which you really run into problems with, and the space equivalent zone, which is basically space where there isn't any atmosphere and you just can't survive. So the physiological efficient zone goes up to about 3,800 meters. To give you an idea, altitude sickness if you're climbing a mountain would start at roughly 3,000 meters. The cabin pressure in most commercial planes is put at the equivalent of about 2,400 meters. In the efficient zone you can get some pressure problems with your ears, and the higher up you get within that, you can start to get some problems caused by the lack of oxygen. That can be starting to get more short of breath, tired, getting a headache. As you get higher up into the deficient zone, you get more problems, you can't think straight, you lose concentration, you get problems with your vision, you can become quite erratic, and eventually you'll pass out. The other problem when you're that high up is that you're so high that the pressure's so low that the nitrogen that's naturally dissolved in your blood starts to bubble out. It's like when you've been diving and then you come up too quickly, and that can cause problems. It's that same kind of pressure change. Most flying is done in that zone, and that's why cabins are pressurised to the equivalent of 2,400 metres, and that's why your oxygen mask will drop down if there's an emergency. Now Father Christmas is going to have an extra problem, because all of those things caused by the low oxygen levels are made worse by a few things. Alcohol, and if he's having a glass of sherry at every house, then that is a lot of sherry. Exercise, he is going very fast and carrying a lot of presents. That is hard physical work. He's going to be doing a lot of exercise. And lack of sleep. He's got to do it all in one night, but in order to do that, he's going to have to make the most of different time zones and follow the clocks as it goes around to give him an extra 24 hours to do it in. So even if we say he delivers all the presents between 9 PM and midnight, that's still a 27-hour shift, which is long, particularly when he's doing that much work and he's drunk that much sherry. There's a couple of ways that he might be able to cope with it. One is if he's just better at ventilating his lungs than most people. He might be able to breathe incredibly fast or incredibly deeply, or both, probably. His heart is going to have to be much more efficient. It's going to have to beat much harder and much faster to get the blood around his body, to get the oxygen around his body that he needs in his muscles and his brain. The other thing that I suspect he has specially adapted is the blood supply to his brain is probably different to be more efficient so that his brain can get more oxygen. The other possibility is that some chemicals can affect how hemoglobin in your red blood cells binds to oxygen. So it could be that he has some special chemical floating around in his blood that means that his hemoglobin in his red blood cells is more likely to pick up oxygen from the lungs efficiently and leave it where it's needed in his muscles and his brain and his tissues. I'm not suggesting that this is an illicit chemical. I'm not suggesting that Santa takes performance-enhancing drugs. I think that he's specially adapted for it somehow. Even with all of this, he's going to have to go higher into that physiological deficient zone sometimes, even if it's only to go over mountains. Even with all those adaptations, it'll probably buy him more time, but eventually, without any oxygen, he's going to pass out. I think he probably just has to be really quick. How long you get depends on the altitude and on your body. Most people get about 10 or 15 minutes at the lower end of that zone, up to about 10 seconds at the higher end of the zone. With all of his adaptations, Father Christmas could probably have a little bit longer, and he's going to be going really fast in order to get those presents out, so he's not going to be that high for that long. Actually, that's a good question. How fast is he going to go? Which works out at about 1,000 miles per second. So that works out at Father Christmas going at about 1,000 miles a second. To give you an idea of the scale, that's about twice as fast as the second fastest thing ever observed in the solar system, which was a comet that hit the sun a few years ago. So it's quite fast. But what that means for his physiology is that altitude isn't going to be his biggest problem. He's going so fast, he's not going to be going very high anyway. He's going to be going over the Pacific Ocean in less than 20 seconds, so he's not going to have time to go high, but the speed itself might be an issue, but that's not for now. So a little bit of a different one today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it shed some light on the very important issue of Father Christmas's physiology. So what do you think? Do you think it's those adaptations that keep Father Christmas going at altitude, or do you think there's more to it? Let me know in the comments below and we can figure it out together. I hope you find these videos interesting. If you are doing, remember, click the like button, subscribe to the channel and share the links. I'll see you tomorrow.